Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, da doo-dah day.
Hello and welcome to Last Man Standing. My name is Dan Hollifield, and this is the semi-official after show for Stupid O'Clock. And if you don't know what Stupid O'Clock is, you should look that up because it's a whole lot of fun. Now, here we have the late night edition of possibly things we wish we hadn't said on Stupid O'Clock, but did and now have to face the facts, or entirely new stuff that we just come up with off the top of our heads, and we'll probably hateth ourselves cometh the dawn. In any case, with me tonight, I've got Rich. Donna seems to have gone to bed. Dawn is not here. And if nothing else, then me and Richie will just carrying on for as long as we can stand each other's company. And knowing us, that's a good long time.
But I had to laugh about John saying, like, I got the feeling Rich doesn't know what a bread and butter pickle is. No, Rich knows very well what bread and butter pickle is. In fact, I don't know who I was talking about bread and butter pickles with just the other day. I'm like, I don't like them. Other people like them. More power to them. They can have any that are sloughed off on my plate. Yeah, I just found that humorous. It's like, bread and butter pickles. I'm like, okay, that's right. I keep forgetting about sweet pickles and bread and butter pickles in the pickling universe.
Yeah, they are. There is dill, there is bread and butter, there is sweet. There's a British variety that is somewhere in between bread and butter and sweet. And there is Branston pickle, and there is piccalilli. Never confuse any of the five. Please, never confuse any of the five. And I left out kosher because I can't tell the difference between a kosher dill pickle and a non-kosher dill pickle. There is a difference. It makes a difference to some people who are devout in that particular way.
A slight
And
spicing difference if I'm looking at
um,
the
it has been
the store
blessed
bought
with a
varieties,
little extra salt, as far as I know.
and then of course, being blessed by a rabbi.
Exactly,
Why I'm
exactly.
doing the cross for the Jewish faith, I don't know. I apologize to any of our Hebrew
Yeah,
and
I
Jewish
apologize
followers.
to any of our Catholic Jewish followers. Um, there is a crossover somewhere, and I'm sure we will be corrected in the comments that hey. Um, but yeah, um, there is not only the uh, cultural difference between the European version of pickles and the U.S. version of pickles, north or south, and it's a bigger divide between do green tomatoes and peppers count as pickles, no longer how long they've been preserved in apple cider vinegar. And I'm going, not pickles, but technically pickled peppers. Um, Makes a difference if
And
you're
how
making
many were
nachos.
the peck that Peter Piper picked? Um,
Hey, if he was going to make nachos, I'd help him. I mean, seriously. Hey, that's one of the food groups right there. Um, Coffee, burritos, nachos, ham, egg, and cheese, um, Waffle House. That's the way it goes. Um,
yeah,
those are the five food groups I recognize. Um,
tomorrow, depending on what time I get back from bringing my son home from the airport, um, his family's flying back, and I as we're um, getting the list of everything that he had to take up to the airport, I'm like, yeah, I understand why that list is really short and why I'm probably the only name on it. Um, because I have a 3-row SUV. Um, so I've got plenty of room for the suitcases that my daughter in law, and my grandson took, as well as room for the car seat and the stroller for my granddaughter,
hmm
and to be able to take everyone up. So I got a message yesterday. He's like, "What are you doing on Sunday?" I'm like, "I know what's coming." He's like, "Can you pick me up from the airport?" Yeah, what time?
How much does parking cost me until you get off the plane?
No, 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 no. As soon as they hit the air, that's when I leave because it's roughly a 2-hour flight,
hmm
and it's roughly hour and a half, 2 hours to get there. So
Oh, okay, okay. Now my confusion came from if you go to the Atlanta airport, you either pay parking in the parking garage or you pull up bravely in the white zone, which is for loading and unloading only. Thank you, Frank Zappa. Um, and pick up your passengers and go without having to pay a parking fee. If you have to be there for 5 minutes or longer, you pretty much have to go into the parking garage at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport.
in Midway in Chicago, there are plenty of restaurants and things nearby that I could pull through the drive-through and park in a parking space and eat a Big Mac or something like that, and then
And
head over if they're
wait
running
for
late.
time to go pick them up. Okay, yeah.
But basically,
Atlanta
I'm like,
has.
tell me what time I'm supposed to be there to pick you up, and then also text me as soon as you get in the air, because anything can delay that flight.
Mm-hmm. Basically, text me as soon as the stewardesses say, "Okay, now you can use your electronic equipment," and you're on landing approach. Um, Atlanta is one of those places where they feel like they have to milk you for every penny that they can get out of you. So, if it's possible for
Of
you
course,
to
it's
meet
an airport.
if it's possible for you to meet the people that are supposed to be getting off the plane that you're supposed to pick up in a very, very tiny time frame, you can get out without having to pay the parking fee. If you actually have to wait 5 or 10 minutes, you're going to be told off and have to go to the parking garage. And um, when everything is said and done and you're leaving again, pay a parking fee. Now, the Atlanta airport parking garages, because there's more than one, are extraordinarily secure. And you can, if you are willing to pay the fee, park in their parking tower, fly to England, stay 2 weeks, fly back, get off the plane, go and take all your luggage to your vehicle, which will be very well guarded by people who take guarding seriously, and then drive out and surrender your credit card to leave at whatever exorbitant rate they decide to charge you that day. Usually it's not that bad. Um,
Long term at Midway wasn't horrendous last time I looked, but it's been years since I looked. Um,
and yes, they do
I've
have a
never
difference
used it.
between long term and short term parking. If you're going to be there and leaving the same day, there's a short term parking which has a lesser fee. If you're going to be there until you get back,
Yeah, you're
which
looking at maybe $30 for the day or something like that for short term, and then I think it's like 70 for a week or 80 for a week for long term or something like that.
Hartsville is actually cheaper than that. Um, Long term is about $10 a day.
Okay,
Short term is about
$10 an hour.
no, it's about $1 an hour actually.
That's not horrible at
Um,
all.
no, it's not. It's not. But it's the same rigmarole. You got to drive through the gate, which nobody is at. Put your credit card in. Scan your original parking ticket, the space that you were in, and then it charges you for whatever amount of time you've been there in thousandths of a second, and you know, uh, head on out to the absolutely confusing exit strategy that they have from the airport. Um, you're trying to merge cars, buses, taxis, Ubers, and half a dozen other varieties of vehicles that are trying to leave the airport without anybody having to have an accident and call an ambulance.
Nobody
Um,
wanted to wait their turn when I dropped him
yes.
off. I had cars blocking me in, and I was double parked trying to let them out. But of course, it took longer for them to get everything out because they had to unbuckle a car seat, they had to get out a stroller, they had to reassemble the stroller, put the kid in the stroller. So, but
Yeah.
I have to admit, my son, my daughter-in-law, my wife, and my grandson managed to do that in like pit crew amount of time. It really wasn't horribly long, as because considered everything they had to drag out of my car. Someone a couple cars back was getting honky, and it's like, come on, people, you know. But yeah, it was ridiculous trying to get out.
Yeah. Hartsfield does have the benefit of being one of the busiest airports in the United States, so everything happens really fast, except for people walking from luggage pickup to exit. And really, I've got to stress this: if you're in there long-term parking and you're leaving your car there for 2 weeks, the security is top notch. I mean, seriously, nobody's going to touch your car without getting shot. This is Georgia. They believe in shooting people, so
Yeah,
it's a pastime. It's not a job requirement. Um, I often wonder if the TSA gets hunting permits. Um, now, as long as you're not having to go through airport security in order to pick somebody up, you're winning, absolutely winning. If you have to meet them, well, the term backstage comes to mind. On the other side of the security barriers, uh, that 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 kind of complicates things quite a bit. But if you can meet them on this side of the security barrier, and basically in Atlanta, that means you go to the place with the enormously steep escalator, which seems like it goes down to the absolute depths of Moria, and people ride up constantly. And you meet the folks and get them out to the car, load everything up, get out of the way. Um, it can be inexpensive, but if you've got to park long enough to wait for their flight to actually arrive, it's still going to cost you a, a not unreasonable amount, but not a convenient amount for being parked in the parking garage for less than half a day. Um, been there, done that. Didn't offer T-shirts, so I didn't bring one home, but got out alive with everybody that got off the plane that I was supposed to pick up. I hope we didn't leave anybody behind ever, but it's always possible when you have a huge family. Um, Atlanta Airport is one of those things that is probably third on the list of most annoying things after 285, which is the absolute pinnacle of annoying things about Atlanta. Um, what would be number two? Probably um, the fact that everybody else thinks it's the Daytona 500 rather than just a normal commute. You haven't lived until you've seen somebody in a Jaguar go from the HOV lane across 6 lanes of traffic without a turn signal to get to an exit. You got to have good brakes on your car to drive on 285. Because sooner or later, somebody's going to do something stupid and you're going to have to stop quickly.
Gotta have good brakes to highway drive, period.
Oh, well, no, this is even beyond highway drive. This is stupid drive. Um, they don't think it's a highway, and half the time, normal rush hour traffic is a slowly moving parking lot. Um,
Yeah, that Chicago highway is for you right there too. Stupid or parking lot. Those are the only two options. Very rarely can you have like, oh hey, this is a nice leisurely drive. Yeah, no, now in the city, Chicago, much better than on the highways around Chicago.
well, like I have previously observed, the best time to go through Atlanta, if you don't have to stop anywhere, and you absolutely have to use 285, is about 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. That's
Best
when
time
you
is oh
have,
my fucking god early.
yeah, that is when you have the fewest idiots on the road. Any other time you get on 285, there is a gracious surplusage of idiots on the road. And all of them should have either left 24 hours earlier or don't care what time they get there, just as long as they get there. So see, it's hurry up and wait all the time. And then sometimes the hurry up is extremely fast and the wait is, I'm glad my brakes still work. It stop and go is an understatement. Go is go very fast. Stop is slam on the brakes and hope you don't hit anybody, even if you turn sideways while you're braking.
Yep, been there,
Nobody
done
will
that.
care, and they'll still honk at you for being scared out of your wits and trying to go slow. Knoxville isn't that bad. Washington D.C. on the Beltway isn't that bad. Um, 285, it's that bad. Really, I can't stress that enough. If you don't absolutely need 285 to get to wherever you're going, stay away from it. It's much healthier. Your blood pressure will not elevate to a dangerous level. Just kind of drive around central Atlanta, um, one way or the other, north or south. It doesn't matter which way you're going. If you have to go straight through, you're screwed. 6 days out of the week, um, unless you're going Sunday at some ungodly hour before church services can ever even think about starting. When, in fact, that is about the best time to go through Atlanta. Early, way early, before rush hour. And you have to wonder what's wrong with this city if there is a rush hour on Sunday. Explain this, Lucy. Um, I got none. Um, everybody
Well,
seems to have left the
it
house
did.
about an hour later than they should have.
It really depends on what you're looking at now. Um, you could be looking at people trying to get to second or third mass,
Hmm.
or leaving first, second, or third mass, depending on the size of the church. And I want to say there's a few mega churches located in and around the Atlanta area, aren't there?
Oh, dozens, dozens. And
So
and
you're looking at churches that have congregants in the thousands per session,
yes,
kind of a deal. So that right there is almost your rush hour traffic trying to get to or from that location on that given day. Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, you've got if you want a pleasant driving experience on Atlanta traffic, even if you're just going straight through town and going south on 7585 or going north on 7585 or going around on 285, the Watermelon 500, um, if you can get to that magic hour in between idiots, you can actually make it through with no risk of having an accident and no real stress. It's like driving out in the boonies somewhere. As rare as that instance is, it still does happen. You get there, you start doing your loop, and nobody's coming either way. That's magic time in Atlanta. Um, it really is. And Atlanta needs a whole lot more magic than what it's got right now. Um, there's a lot of places you want to go through or go to, excuse me, where the path from the major highways to where you want to be is very, very convoluted and not intuitive at all. Um, there's a lot of stuff in central Atlanta that is not a government building or not some corporate office. Like two or three different parks and whatnot, the zoo and whatnot. You got to pick your time in order to get there, or at least close enough to navigate some way to the event or facility that you wish to patronize. It's probably the wrong word, but it seems like the right word to me. Um, to be a patron of. Oh, that was, yeah, well, I'm not editing now. I'm not editing now. Um, this is raw composition. Um, save me, Richie, save me. Throw me a damn life jacket or one of them little lifesaver rings, and not the ones that you get out of the vending machine, but the ones that are there on the side of someplace where you're pretty close to drowning if you mess up.
How
So,
about them sports ball teams? Um,
you know how I feel about sports ball teams. Um, Actually, I feel nothing about most sports ball teams, and just
Same here, which is why I said, how about that sports ball?
yeah, really, them folks is really pushing that sports ball to the limit. They sportsed it really, really well. Um, the
They sports
referees
shit like a
didn't like it,
motherfucker.
but they sports balled that until it was so much sports ball that it overflowed into the other sports ball directories. So if I don't say anything stupid in the next 30 seconds, somebody might buy that bullshit I just came up with. Um, Lord.
And if they
Uh,
do, I'll sell you a deal on this watch right here.
Oh, Grasshopper, you done snatched the pebble right out of my hand. Ah,
Yeah, I got a bridge in San Francisco I want to sell you. Some beachfront property
hey,
in Arizona.
Emperor Norton might have something to say about that damn bridge. It's his. Uh, actually, it is. Um, the Golden Gate Bridge was actually constructed because Emperor Joshua Norton wanted the bridge built. And he was such a crazy walking around the town, damn near homeless lunatic with such an engaging personality that they actually built the bridge that he thought was a good idea. He printed his own money, promissory notes. People in the city honored his monopoly money as if it were real. The man was a legend. And if you've not heard of Emperor Joshua Norton, I strongly recommend that you go and look that up on the best internet search engine that you can find. And whatever it says that seems like it's really, really outrageous, reality was more complicated than that, more
Truth was
outrageous than
stranger
that.
than fiction.
Yeah. Um, this guy was once a wealthy stock market speculator who lost everything betting on one particular import happening on time. After that, he seems to have gone a
Off
little
the deep
bit
end.
on the eccentric side, and the people of San Francisco pretty much adopted him as a patron saint. So during his life, he could do or say anything, and everybody else went,
All right.
"Yep, that. Hey, he said so. We got to do it." Um, he actually once proposed to Queen Victoria, thinking that they should consolidate their two empires. Joshua Norton was the Emperor of California and the Protector of Mexico, self proclaimed. And proposing to Victoria was one of the most ballsy things he's ever done in his life. And she was not insulted. She didn't accept, but she was not insulted. Um, history is one of those wonderful, malleable things where if you're a sufficient level of smartass, you can get shit done and you can change history. Not necessarily for the better, just change history. I haven't the faintest idea where I'm going with this, Rich. Save my ass. Say something interesting.
Something interesting. Oh wait, no, that's not what you meant. Um,
Okay, yeah, that was a Three Dawn Night song. Um,
let's see. It's I. It's been a weekend.
mm,
And I'm surprised that one I'm sober. Uh,
Well, that's a regrettable occurrence.
but oh god, last night I kind of got a little bit of a mean streak in me when I was buying groceries,
Oh,
and I bought a big bottle of apple juice, and I was half tempted to sit there with a huge glass tumbler filled with ice and that apple juice and acting like it's bourbon uh, and just watching people go, he's knocking that bourbon back and it's not touching him. What the hell's going on? Um, but I
you
behaved.
could get away with you could have gotten away with that. You really could. Although you're one of the most honest people I know, and you wouldn't actually want to get away with it except for humorous purposes.
Yeah, I wouldn't do anything where I'm making money off it or anything like that, like a bar bet or well, depends against who. It depends against who. Um, if they're an asshole and they need to be taken down a peg, yes. Um, have you ever seen the Kirk Cameron movie Fireproof?
Actually, I believe I did before the satellite dish got turned off. I can't
So,
remember anything about it, but I believe I did see it.
so he's a captain of um, uh, an engine crew,
Hmm.
and the um, I don't think he's the rookie. I think he's the one just above the rookie. He's no longer Proby, but he's trying to haze Probies and stuff like that.
Okay.
So Kirk Cameron sits down with him, and it's like, all right, Tabasco juice challenge, and 2 bottles of hot sauce. One gets set in front of each one, and they need to chug the hot sauce. Kirk Cameron downs his, and he's like, all right, Sparky, go. And the other guy's trying to chug his, and he's just choking on the hot sauce and stuff like that. And then, a little bit later, he's like, how'd you do it? And the captain throws him the bottle. Tomato juice.
Wasn't hot sauce at all, dude.
Yeah, his was tomato juice. The Proby, or the guy that was being an ass, he was drinking the actual hot sauce.
Straight Tabasco. Yeah. Um,
I could totally see my dad doing that to someone too.
oh wow, this is going back a ways. We had a fellow who was, I believe, Peruvian, who was always trying to one up all the local crackers who grew their own hot peppers, ghost peppers, Carolina Reapers, habaneros, jalapenos, whatever. And he decided he was going to bet somebody that grew their own ghost peppers that he could not only drink an entire bottle of the vinegar off Tabasco peppers, but drink an entire bottle of the McElhenney Tabasco sauce. He managed to drink both bottles, and then the inevitable physical repercussions set in. He got up from the table, said, "Excuse me." He ran to the bathroom, and nobody saw him for about 6 hours. And he did not get written up for not being on the job for those 6 hours because the supervisor, the plant manager, everybody in authority saw this bet going down and go, he's game. He's stupid, but he's game. They let him get away with it, but he was sick for days.
He was hurting.
Um, Basically, it was not only did it burn going in, it burned coming out both ways.
Yeah. So you've heard of Dave's Insanity Sauce, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Nice little, disclaimer on the label. Can you clean the grease off your driveway? So a friend of mine brought that in, and he was showing it around to folks back when I was working in the factory. And he bet this one Mexican kid that he couldn't drink. The Mexican kid couldn't take a whole tablespoonful. Bet him $20. Kid's like, all right, you're on. Well, my friend felt really bad afterwards because within about 5 minutes, he could barely breathe, and the kid had to go to the hospital because he took too much too fast, and it started closing off his airway.
Yep. That will happen. You don't even have to be allergic to it. It's a normal reaction to that much. What is it? Capsaicin.
Capsaicin. My friend doubled what he promised him. He's like, because of the reaction, he's like, here's 40. I'm sorry. But another funny story about that day. So I dabbed a little bit on my finger to try it because you're like, here, try it. Now I was smart. I only had a couple drops, and I'm like, ooh, spicy. Okay. Go to work, and my job was installing molds into presses and making sure the presses were running and stuff like that. It was an injection molding shop where we were making parts for windows and doors. Anderson Windows and Doors.
Yes.
Anderson was a sister company of ours. We were all under the umbrella of the Newell Corporation, Newell Rubbermaid. So was able to get really cheap deals on Miro cookware, Rubbermaid, Anderson Windows, stuff like that, because we could get that through the company at a ungodly discount. I mean, we got it for a little over cost, kind of the deal, because they're selling it to folks inside the company. And now we're going to brag about
employee discount. Yeah,
exactly. Well, above and beyond that, it was, because we know if you enjoy the product and you like the product, you're going to tell your friends about the product, and that's going to be better advertising than if we're spending $1 million on a campaign that maybe 5 people might watch and pay attention to, because everyone's probably running to the bathroom because they don't want to miss, what's next on Cops, But anyway, so I went to work, and then, hours later, felt the call of nature. So I went to the restroom. I had not washed my hands between the time I had taken the capsaicin, working on things, and then going to the bathroom. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I'm like, dear mother of God, what the hell's going on? I'm like, I couldn't have caught anything. I'm not active in that capacity. Why am I?
I'm monogamous, damn it.
Not only I wasn't even monogamous, I was celibate. But I'm like, why am I peeing fire? And then, after that, I washed my hands and everything, because, what you do after you have your junk in your hand, go back, do more work. A couple hours later, have to piss again. And once again. So even after washing my hands, it still burned. And here's the other thing is, it was under hydraulic grease, and it still burned that first time, because again, I'm working on molds. My hands are greasy. My hands are dirty. I've got oil and things from the mold and from the presses. And it's like, this stuff is between the capsaicin and what I'm touching. And that shit still leaked through. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Point to remember, if I ever touch anything related with hot sauce, wash my hands thoroughly, repeatedly, before blowing my nose, rubbing my eyes,
Touching anything delicate on your skin.
touching anything that does not have um, a built up uh, desensitization to touch, because the skin on our hands, the skins on our arms, the wind, grit from the air, stuff like that. That's touching. That's toughening it up. That's desensitizing it. Have that same wind, blow up a kilt. Much different feeling. If you catch my drift, no pun intended.
Yes,
Um,
yes. That is almost word for word the way that I discovered that bringing home homegrown peppers from my coworkers at work and chopping them up to put in my pickled pepper jar required me to actually buy and use surgical gloves rather than try and do it barehanded, because I made the mistake of chopping up a single habanero pepper barehanded, putting it in the jar, and then having to go to the restroom. Not only did I throw my trousers into the laundry to be washed, I used about half an hour's worth of hot water from the water heater to try and scrub this stuff off of my hands with a brush and lots of soap, because that pain of touching my most delicate parts in order to aim correctly became a life lesson in don't mess with peppers without digital
protection.
protection. Yeah. Uh, at work, this is a totally different story. At work, someone had brought in the first ever habaneros that I had ever seen. Just the little bitty round ones, just grape sized. I knew they were peppers. I knew they were supposed to be hot. They're going, hey, yeah, eat a slice of that. We'll give you $50. And I'm going, okay. Means it's really hot, right? You're trying to laugh at me for screwing up. And took a plastic knife, it was a plastic fork, and sliced just the teeniest tiny wedge off of one intact habanero, and stuck it with the fork and lifted it up close to my mouth and burned my nose so badly I had blisters without actually tasting it. And I'm going, yeah, that's hotter than I want to have inside my body. So we'll just leave this for the next person you want to pick on. I've already pre-sliced it. Um, my God, it's like I lifted it up and smelled it, and it not only burned my mouth, my nose, my sinuses were clear for about a week. I mean, just suddenly, two exits, no waiting. All the phlegm in my lungs went gush. Um, and I still didn't even taste the stuff. It was just sniff. Oh my God, this is not my. This is way out of my league. Um, and that's not even the hottest pepper that these guys at work grow. Um, California Reapers, Ghost Peppers. I mean, seriously, they think that the hottest things available on the face of the earth can be made into mild sauce. And I'm going,
They're
I'm
special
take
kind of crazy.
I'm taking names. I no. I don't care what peppers you bring in. I ain't eating none raw, but I'll wear rubber gloves when I take two or three of them home and chop them up into my little pickle pepper jar that makes my chili so much better. And when I make my chili, I will take uh, like salad tongs or something and just get one handful in the salad tongs and take it out, drop it into an entire 2.5 gallon crock pot, along with, I mean, by the time my chili's cooking, it is absolutely about to overflow the crock pot. And those are all random pepper slices. They're not all the really, really hot ones. They're every variety you can think of that have been in a 1 gallon container of uh, apple cider vinegar for about, well, a month to a year and a half. Let's put it that way. They're sitting there, and there are actually even green tomato, uh, tiny green tomatoes that have been quartered and dropped in there, and you just go in with the salad tongs and get a little bit and put it in the crock pot. And depending on fate and random chance, what you got out is either, oh my God, or, oh, this is nice.
It's either oh my
But
god, oh my
it,
god.
it's mixed up with about 2.5 gallons of pinto beans and ground beef and ground sausage and all the other stuff that goes in chili. It's either this is way hotter than I wanted it to be, or oh wow, this is mild enough to where I can actually taste everything else.
All right, so I've got a
It's
question for
random
you.
chance. Yeah.
So, um, how do you make your chili? Like in our family, we brown up some ground beef. I toss in 2 cans of either kidney beans or uh, actual chili beans. I toss in a huge can of tomatoes, um, and then I add a big can of tomato juice, and then later on I'll take a portion of that chili out, put it into something else, and then I will add Frank's hot sauce to that to give it a little bit of heat, because my youngest doesn't like the taste of hot sauce, period, and Misty can only take so much heat.
All right. We've got one of those big oval crock pots. About, I don't know how much the volume of it is, but the cylindrical ones are fair, but this is like 1.5 times that size. Um, I will start off by putting a can of um, crushed or stewed tomatoes in there and turn the
We
heat on
used
mod.
we used crushed tomatoes, yeah, in ours.
Yeah, turn it on medium. Then I will slice up about half an onion and dice it fine. Throw that in there. Um, Usually a little teeny tiny bottle of mushroom pieces and stems. Drain that. Throw the mushrooms in, and I'll get out the frying pan and I will cook either 100% um, Jimmy Dean's sage sausage or 50
Okay.
50 Jimmy Dean's sage sausage and ground beef. Um, Either way works just fine. And put that in there. And that browning meat will have part of the diced onion, the other part that I didn't dice up and put in the crock pot right away. And it will have diced bell peppers, and it will have uh, fresh garlic, cloves diced up. Throw that in there. Everything gets browned and then gets thrown in to the crock pot. There will be um, either 2 cans of pinto beans or a can of pinto beans and a can of kidney beans, depending on my mood. And you've got onions and tomatoes and everything floating around in there already. Uh, if I have accidentally added too much water, I will open a can of tomato paste, put it in to thicken it up a bit. Um, I will add salt, black pepper, white pepper, chili powder, uh, Italian
Yeah,
spices, which
we used
uh,
chili powder and a lot of cumin, but I'll also use the chili powder and cumin in my brownie meat so that my
mm,
meat takes on that flavor.
yep. Um, let's see, Italian spices, which is parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme. It's all in one shaker. We just put it out there. Um, at one time, I had a jar of uh, uh, crushed garlic that I would use instead of actually slicing up garlic fresh and doing it that way. Um, and a little bit of water, and just let it keep going. And after about an hour on low heat in the crock pot, I would start tasting it and go, needs a little bit more salt. Oh, I will add a big spoonful of uh, instant coffee and what was it? What was it? Uh, Nothing fancy, but um, about 1 tablespoonful of apple cider vinegar, and just let it keep going, let it keep going, let it keep going, and taste it and see. Oh, it needs a little bit more of this. It needs a little bit more of that. Then adjust the spice ratio. Um, I would put one small bit of pickled peppers in there from the jar that has like 2 dozen different varieties of peppers being pickled for a year and a half in apple cider vinegar. Just take the salad tongs, grab a little bit, not a huge amount, let it go, let it cook, keep going, adjust everything, adjust everything, adjust everything. Um, and after about 5 hours on, um, well, about 2 hours on high and about 4 hours on low, I've got a crock pot, a huge crock pot full of what is, um, well, I've never made it the same way twice because it's all done by taste. So I don't have the faintest idea how much of everything mathematically gets thrown in, but I'm going to have to run down the hallway. Instead of leaving you on your own, let me play this little video here. And we will resume, hopefully, by the time it ends. If it comes up and I ain't here, I'm sorry, just vamp. Um, see you in a minute.
And now I have to pee after that. Thanks, Dan. Okay. So, welcome to the cooking show with Dan and Rich. No. Oh, and he's back.
Damn, 3 minutes wasn't long enough. Good grief. That was
just barely not long enough.
That was entirely psychological.
Yeah,
all of a
but
sudden,
thank you. I have to pee now.
go right ahead.
I'm good. But it's just listening to the running water. It's like, son of a bitch.
That's what it was designed to do. Actually, go. Oh, I'm really into this, but suddenly I got to go down the hall. Yeah.
I've got to pee. I'm going to make you have to pee too.
You really. And the weird thing was, it was talking about chili and peppers and everything. It it engendered an entirely psychological response. I haven't had any chili in
I've been meaning to make chili
weeks,
for the past couple months. I haven't
and
made any
and
since we moved here.
and all of a sudden I got this warning that my body was about to have an explosive decompression, and I go, oh, whoop, play the commercial, and run down there, and uh, no, uh, just pissing is not the uh, release that you told me you needed, you son of a bitch. Um, okay, let's go back to the program. Um, you know, our minds actually have much more control over our physical bodies than we usually give them credit for.
Yeah, you people would be surprised at actually how far we can go. Um, like for me right now, raising my arm above here hurts. Over here, I can do it no problem. If I could block out the pain there, I could easily get my arm all the way up. Our bodies
Hmm.
can actually move a lot farther. Our bodies can actually go through a lot more as far
Hmm.
as pain and exertion than we think.
Hmm.
Um, when it's simple exhaustion type thing, I like to fool my body by just saying, okay, one more step. All we got to do is one more step. And then after we complete that one more step, all right, one more step. Concentrating at one step ahead and just trying to complete that one step ahead instead of that 7 miles.
Yeah, it's
You
just
know,
the psychological pyramid scheme. Okay, we've done this. Now we can do that. Just a little bit more. It's just a little bit more. It's a fraction of what we've already done. Just a little bit more. Just icing on the cake. We can do this. We've done more. We've done much more. Just let's take this step. Okay, we took that step. Let's take this next step. Okay.
it's
Um,
surprising how much we can do when we can get out of our own way and stop distracting ourselves.
yeah, if you, and it sounds like psychology, but it isn't. If you go ahead and start something and follow it through to its conclusion, no matter how many steps of completion it takes to get there, it's a whole lot less effort than going, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I can't. No, that's not fair. I'm not getting paid enough to do that. But if you just go, okay, we're doing that, and go ahead and do it, you can fool your body.
Now,
You can actually
the
even fool your mind.
the
But
brain, depending on how you're wired, is a really unique animal to come against and to fight against. And sometimes it really is a fight. With ADD brain, there's so much that I'm like, all right, I've got to turn this way. I've got to do this. I've got to make this tweak so that my brain doesn't get mired in this part of it and just start spinning my wheels.
you know,
And I love Talker. But one of the things that irritates me is he's like, "Well, do this." I can't. My brain's not letting me because of my issues. I figured it
Hmm.
for the
Yep.
past 40 some years. I figured I was ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it. Um, although back from the time I was 10 to 18, that wasn't a phrase yet for the masses.
Yeah.
So I,
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. Yeah.
There was no diagnosis back then. Yeah.
Well, the diagnosis was take your kid home and give him a couple licks of the belt. That'll straighten him up. Um,
Hey, and you'd be surprised how many times that worked back in the day.
no, I
Uh,
don't have to be surprised.
it it didn't completely work. It wasn't 100% effective, but
Mom and Pop gave me that prescription on a regular basis.
yeah, really.
You know,
Um,
they were farming that shit in the
my folks
backyard.
too. You and now we touch on the very basis of Victorian medicine. They're crazy. Beat the crap out of them with a whip. Um,
Good old Bellevue.
yeah, Bellevue. Uh, oh God, there were several others. Okay, no, those were part-time
Bedlam.
hospitals and most time prisons. Um,
Well, most asylums
oh,
are even
um,
nowadays.
Bethlehem, Bedlam. That one was probably rough on anybody that wasn't actually a criminal, just nuts. If you were a criminal, they went easy on you. If you were just uh, mentally off center, you
Couple
got
fries
tortured.
short of a Happy Meal. Yeah.
You got tortured. Um, um, if you were, oh God, I hate to apply modern terms because they didn't know what these things were in the 1800s. Uh, if you had been um somebody that was ADHD, they would label you as something off the wall, and you were uh, unfit
Aut-
for popular society. If you were paranoid,
Autism and slight retardation and things of that.
oh
You
yeah,
know, you were
uh,
possessed. You were on drugs. Even if you never sniffed a drop of alcohol or even seen
yeah,
a bottle of laudanum, oh, you're a drug addict. No, your brain's not firing the same way that other people's are.
hmm
Um,
ADHD, Asperger's, autism, lots of other things they did not understand actually existed back then. Got lumped together into
a lot of people
well,
claim they don't exist today.
a lot of people are fucking stupid today.
I concur.
Um,
I concur with that statement.
no,
Uh,
I'm just remembering something from a TV show and going, yeah, um, I'm a high functioning sociopath. Thank you. Um, and the weird thing is that successful businessmen in management fit the serial killer uh, profile so well as being totally incapable of understanding human emotions. and totally unable to relate to human feelings. And I'm going, yeah. Um, Dogma, uh, procedure, authority. That pretty much defines the exact mental illness these successful businessmen suffer from.
And the successful clergymen too.
Exactly. And the key word here is successful.
And
They get they get
that
rewarded for being nuts.
that's not to disparage anyone who has a deep commitment to faith, no matter what faith
Oh,
that is.
uh-huh.
Christian, Judaism, Islam, any of the Norse, Celtic, Greek, Egyptian
Yes,
um,
I, sh-
pantheons, etc., and so on.
I should point out that no matter what religion, what faith you happen to practice, there are always going to be what is basically con men taking advantage of your beliefs
For
and
power.
manipulating you in order to gain power, uh, financial, social, philosophical, or no, the philosophical is the wrong word. Um, uh, um, we'll fill in that one when we come to it, when I can remember the right word. But yeah, um, there are always going to people who are there are always going to be people who are lustful of power and authority enough to twist and manipulate the beliefs of others, the absolute honest beliefs and faiths of others in order to achieve their particular end game, end goals. Some of that is entirely despicable, and some of it is altruistic enough to actually, I don't want to say excuse, but to render it comprehensible. Um, there are a lot of things I could say as smartass remarks, which would probably piss a lot of people off and would not actually advance the discussion at hand. My point
Yeah,
is there are always what amounts to con men willing to take advantage of people's honest beliefs, their honest faith, in order to
there are
either
always
attempt
people
or
out there
succeed at
that
controlling
feel so
them.
small that they must control everything around them. It's kind of like Napoleonic complex, except it's not necessarily height related.
Yep, yep.
It's
Uh,
you feel you're a small person, you feel you're ineffectual, so you are going to show the world by going forth, and you're going to conquer all. You know,
and that
Napoleon,
and
Hitler.
that explains everybody who is a natural born micromanager.
They feel they have so little control that they feel the need they must control everything,
Hmm. Everything and everyone. Um, and then there's
which
the
does not work with me, and
me
it
either.
gets me in trouble a lot, because I
Yeah,
consider
yeah.
micromanaging just another form of bullying, and Richie
Exactly.
and bullies
Exactly.
don't play nice in the sandbox, if you get my meaning.
Hmm. I'm exactly the same way, and I have run into various, um, unfortunately, um difficulties with certain types of, um, managerial authority figures that, and this is not a reflection on anybody I know now, but I've had almost half a century working in the place where I work now. Sometimes you get stuck with somebody who's in charge who feels like the only way they can justify their existence is to control minutely everybody, everybody under their, supposed authority.
And some under other people's authority because they want to undermine those other people and amass more followers under their cult of personality.
Well, yeah, that you're talking about, jumping a few, rungs on the corporate ladder. I've run into that too, but I was referring to the basic, um, do as I say, not as I do, my way or the highway. Um,
Well, but
that style of almost out of reach bureaucrat who thinks they know everything, but they don't have enough experience to actually know more than about 30% of everything involved with whatever it is that that particular, factory, industry does.
I've seen that in you know the hospitality industry. I've seen that in um, a corporate law firm setting. I've seen that back when I was in the factory. Um, I see that in friend groups.
Ooh, I hate it when I see it in friend groups.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're like, "Well, you're part of that circle. Why are you part of that circle? You should be just part of this circle." No, I like some of the crap that they do over there too. You're not doing this; they're doing this. That's why I'm hanging out over here.
Yeah,
And then
really.
suddenly they're
There
over
there are
there.
circles.
Yeah,
Sorry,
they're
don't play well with circles.
then
Um,
they're over there trying to destroy that group so that those people get merged into this other one. It's like 90% of these people have no interest in the stuff that we're doing over here. Why are you trying to bring them over here? They're going to be bored to tears.
yeah, and it all comes down
I
to
don't have
dominance
those people in
games.
my life anymore. That's exactly what
It
it is.
it all comes down to dominance games. And when you refuse to play dominance games, you win. Uh, there may be unfortunate repercussions for refusing to play, but, otherwise, it's just you're standing away from what they're doing, and you see exactly what's going on, and you know exactly how it's going to turn out, and you know they have a 3 to 5 year period that they're going to be able to play that particular game in this particular arena. And then they will be replaced by somebody else who may or may not have something actually on the ball. If you're lucky, they have learned enough about life and what your yourself and your coworkers are doing that they can make, um, wise decisions. That's very rare. That is very, very rare. Most of the time, it's, oh, I have authority. You must obey me.
A lot of times,
And,
it very much is a cult um,
Mhm.
mentality. You know,
Exactly, exactly.
you must revere me, and you know it brings it back to that personality type we're just talking about. You know your successful clergyman. You know, a cultist technically is a successful clergyman. You know, they're usually putting out some kind of religious esque dogma, um,
And
but
they're
they're
charismatic.
trying to use their charm to draw the people in, and they use a very highly evolved and intelligent brain to make weird shit seem reasonable.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
And
it's
if you're lucky, they're actually moral. If you're unlucky, you get Charles Manson or somebody like that.
you know
Uh,
your Jim Jones, your um,
exactly. That's the other really good
Your
example.
David Koresh, your Charles
Exactly.
Manson, um, uh,
The people that are charismatic
Apple
enough to make people fail
Apple
to
White, I believe was his name,
Applewhite. Yeah, yeah. Um,
um, with Heaven's Gate. You know, it's
yes, exactly, exactly.
and no pun intended. Some people drink this Kool Aid and they go way too far, and I see this happen in some of my local churches. I am very persnickety about the church that I go ahead and I go to.
Mm.
Um,
And I
if
see
I
the
go in
same
there
thing.
and I have anything gives me the heebie-jeebies in any way, shape, and or form, I'm out like a fat kid in
And
dodgeball.
unfortunately, I see the same thing in industries.
Yes.
You have the charismatic leader who may or may not know his right hand from the left, may or may not understand what the business is trying to do, and may or may not be trying to micromanage everyone underneath them so that for good or ill, their word is law.
Look at Logan Paul for a more recent example. Are you familiar with Logan Paul?
Mm.
He started out as a YouTuber, and honestly, I hated his videos because he and his brother, I think it was Logan. It might be Jake that I'm thinking. I'm pretty sure it's Logan I'm thinking of. That they would just be so abusive to people that are supposed to be in their employ and stuff like that, and somehow that shot them up to monumental stardom. And um, Logan has, I think, for the most part, left the YouTube platform, but he's gone to professional boxing. But he's still doing a lot of his stupid little antics like that. Well, he made another pivot, and he was supposed to develop this zoo game, and some of these animals that could hatch in this zoo game were special NFTs, so a special cryptocurrency type thing.
Uh-huh.
And right now he's in just this major lawsuit. Um, Last I heard, it was a major lawsuit. Now, granted, I'm getting my news about this whole situation from the Philip DeFranco show. Um, so if for some reason you actually end up watching this Philly D because you've been mentioned, you're awesome. I love you. I thought you were hilarious back when you were a teen, and I find you very informative now. Um, he's an individual that matured with this platform, um, where you've got other people who just devolved into such stupidity and cruelty that I want to reach through the monitor and slap them. But
Yes.
Philip DeFranco did a great job maturing. He shows what this platform really can be and should be by doing a little news show that brings snippets. And I like it because it's short attention span theater for a lot of major news pieces that are going out. Like when right around election time, he'll cover stuff that stupid things that this party has done, that's party done, that this candidate's doing, stuff like that, to
Yep.
draw people's attention and be like, we're not saying don't vote for this person. We're just saying, look at the shit that they're doing. Is this really what you want to hitch your cart to? Um, but yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's Logan Paul's game just complete. It's because he's such a quote unquote celebrity, and then you also see this shit happening on Twitch too, where you get these
Yeah.
people and you have these girls that it is half a heartbeat, half a hair away from being an OnlyFans site because they're sitting in a hot tub in a bikini doing whatever. I don't remember if they were playing a video game or
Yeah.
whatever. And
I'm
I've never seen this person's channel. I've just seen other people reporting on the channel. So I don't know if there's more substance to it, and just every once in a while they do the cheesecake thing, which if that's the case,
no,
hey,
no.
everyone
I have
has their thing.
I have seen a very large number of and you said exactly the right thing. Cheesecake channels that are promoted by Facebook. And you go,
And
how
a
can I?
lot of beefcake channels that way too.
Well, yeah, but those don't get promoted to me, so
Nor
I
I.
don't see them. I don't see them. I do see a lot of Facebook videos that are basically either cheesecake or amateur porn.
And some of
Highly
that stuff will
edited amateur porn, but still.
some of that stuff will come up in my reels, and I'm like, I don't click on anything like that. Why the hell do you have that there? I
I
click on the
know.
stupid tool videos, the stupid craft videos, the 5 minute crafts where it's like, oh, if you have this, 3D printing pen thing, the 3D doodle, you can make yourself a flip flop if you have to. Just I watch stupid stuff like that, and then stuff like the Ralphie May stuff and the stuff like the stand up comedians, and I'm like, where do you
Yeah, yeah.
think that this is going to be coming into my channel? And I would assume there's the complete opposite for people who prefer to see the well chiseled male physique in mostly undress, but it's just like, where do these things come from? I don't even have a conversation. Okay, now we're having a conversation about this, so maybe
Yeah.
more of the stuff is going to start popping up in my feed again, and I'm going to have to make another explanation to Misty. Like, no, I'm not clicking on this shit. Really,
It doesn't seem to make a difference whether you click on something or not. Uh, a lot of it seems to be whether or not you are very, very, very conservative or you are welcoming of alternative lifestyles. And then you get commercials that are either pandering to a 9-year-old who is just awakening his sexuality, or something that is actually sophisticated and subtle and
9-year-old
humorous.
crap. I was a
And
late bloomer.
really, sorry, I can only use myself as an example most of the times, but um, I will say I discovered a calendar of Betty Page when I was about 8, and it totally changed my world.
Mine was
Especially
a
when I
snap-on
figured out
calendar.
especially when I figured out I could lift the oversheet, and suddenly the oversheet was the only thing that had the nightgown printed on it, and I go, "Whoa, madam, you interest me strangely."
Mine was 11 or 12, and a snap-on calendar that had a lot of women in little to no clothing,
Mm-hmm.
um,
They still do that.
hanging in the bathroom on the workers' side. So the shop my dad worked at, the
Mm-hmm.
installers and all that, they were on the one side where they were making stuff up of the sheet metal. They're doing the had started the furnaces and air conditioners and whatever for installs and stuff. But the back part of that was a garage for the excavation company run by the brother-in-law of one of the owners, and then the business um, side was the next building over.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the bathroom there, it was the same snap-on calendar for 4 years running. They never changed the calendar. They never changed the month.
Wouldn't you
So
need to? That was a good month. It was vintage.
it was
Um,
a very good month,
mm-hmm.
worth reliving
um,
over and over again.
on a daily basis, yes. Um, I understand completely. Um, there comes a time when, and I can only speak for young men because I've never been a young woman, but I imagine the process is similar, but in a different direction. Um, when a young man discovers girly pictures for the first time and doesn't really understand why he is so obsessively drawn to them, and then discovers additional sources to said girly pictures, and they change over time. The actual mores of society adjust themselves as time passes. So different things are acceptable in granddad's day than are acceptable in dad's day and are acceptable in your day and are acceptable in your son's day. And it's a very psychological thing that's going on here because it is all just exactly not a hero's journey, but an adolescent's journey to adulthood that happens to have these um I wouldn't call them side roads, I wouldn't call them diversions, examples of things from the previous generations as well as yours and what will come after yours, and awaken their sexuality because they're just on the cusp of going from teenager to adult. No matter their age, their um, their rate of no, evolution's the wrong word. Their rate of understanding and becoming is different from one generation to another, to the next, to the next, to the next. But
It truly is evolution in the truest sense of the word of what evolution is, because evolution isn't really so. The changes I have in my life isn't an evolution per se. It is the changes in a single individual.
mhm,
Whereas the morals that my grandfather taught my dad, that my dad taught me, that I teach my son, and then, well, all my kids actually, and then my children teach their children, or so. That is a true evolution because it's small changes that are coming here
mhm.
and there. You know, don't treat people bad because of this. Don't treat people bad because of that. Realize that, maybe it's not so bad to have this view and this type of thing and stuff. So, um,
There's nothing
it's
wrong with feeling this way when everybody before you thought there was something wrong. They didn't have the enlightened point of view that we have now. Um,
exactly.
you. I'm a firm believer in the premise that most problems of any kind that folks have over the years is due to being too embarrassed to engage in actual discussion because the morals and mores that you were raised with are different from the morals and mores of the modern day.
Yeah.
And hell, um, back in the 60s, I couldn't comprehend people that I now know to be polyamorous. I mean, I didn't even have a reference point. There was nothing in my experience that would have given me a reference point. Um, got to college in the 70s, and I'm going, oh, okay, yeah. Um, doesn't apply to me, but doesn't mean I got to put it down or hate it or anything. Y'all do you, I'll do me, and you fish on your side, I'll fish on my side, and we'll hopefully won't get our lines tangled up in the middle of the stream. Um, and that marks me as terribly, terribly open-minded for my time, because I should have been utterly repressed in my time, even though um, it wasn't polyamory in the 50s. It was swingers. Not not exactly the same thing, but a little bit similar. Not nowhere near exactly the same, but a little bit similar. I do believe that nowadays we've got a a more um, what is the word? For a more evocative, a more empathetic feeling for such things, even if you don't share that particular interest, you can empathize and understand that other people do. It's not just poly people. It's we're more understanding of alternate sexualities. I mean, gays, ace, whatever, and it's more like, you know, back in the day when I was a kid, you get picked on for that. Nowadays, you don't get picked on. That's an improvement.
Major. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, now my son, I love him, but he's a little mired in my father-in-law's time and my father's time,
That
um,
happens. That
because
happens. He
he,
idolizes them, don't he?
not necessarily my father, but my father-in-law, yeah. Um, my father-in-law was the one that he would run to when he didn't like my rules, to try to get my father-in-law to say, hey, Rich, back off, But so, for those that don't know, I've been graced with one of each as far as children go: male, female, and none of the above. So I have all three choices on the check boxes,
Hmm.
and my father could not get into his head my youngest's choices and
Mm,
how my youngest feels and stuff like that, because he's going off of biology. He's not going off of
psychology. Yeah.
exactly. So for the
Um.
longest time, he would just refer to my youngest as, "Hey, Rich, tell your insert gendered
Uh-huh.
child type here," instead of just tell your youngest or whatever. Yeah, because he's really upset that my youngest has decided, at least for now, to ditch their birth name. And honestly, at first,
And
Misty and I were kind of bummed about that, but we're like, yeah, it. I'd go by Rich instead of Richard. Is Crow's choice really that different? Granted, it's a completely different name and such than their birth name,
hmm
but it's something that isn't reinforcing you have to have this gender stereotype, you have to behave in this way.
yes, that is the ultimate drawback. A lot of dogmatic people believe without evidence that time has not moved on, things have not changed, humans have not evolved, and what it was in my childhood is the way it always has to be.
If it weren't
Uh,
for my Q plus friends in my life showing and teaching me different things, I would probably be just as bigoted as my father and my son, my father in law. But
I am.
I'm happy I had these people in my life. They expanded my heart. They taught me to see someone for being something else. They taught me not to judge a book by its cover. Because
Exactly.
I think if I had that same viewpoint as my dad did, I think that would be doing so much harm to my youngest. Now, that's not to say Misty and I don't accidentally call our child by their birth name. It's not to say that we don't accidentally, you know,
Habits
say
habits are ingrained. Habits are ingrained.
the
Sometimes you just
wrong
can't help it.
pronoun. Um, um, but it's they understand that it's we're not trying to cram them back in that box. Um, Now, at a very young age, I instilled in Crow, your kid. You are going to change your mind on things across time. And luckily, their older sister did all sorts of weird shit
And provided a good example.
and
Excuse
showed,
me.
hey, you're this way this week, you're that way the next week. Crow is a little more even kilter than the flitting around one way or the other.
Hmm.
Um, but it is what it is,
Excuse me.
and Crow understands that. You know, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, they might decide, oh, I'm male, I'm female. No, I'm happy being this middle state or whatever. They might decide to go a different way romantically or whatever. They're not stuck in that, and
And that's their business, not ours.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I'll support them the best I can.
Oh,
Now,
really?
I'm not paying for any kind of reassignment or anything like that, because I think that that is a little much for a 14-year-old to decide for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
now they're
something
almost
you
16, but still, um,
that's
you know,
that is in my opinion, and I will admit that I am not fully informed on everything, but in my opinion, you've got to be probably in your mid 20s before it's a good time to make that decision. Maybe your
I'm
mid 30s.
I know people in their
Um,
50s that haven't made up their mind on that platform yet, on that decision yet. So,
well, yeah, and
I
and
mean, it's
eh,
it
as long as you don't make irrevocable decisions when you're too young.
and that's exactly my thing. I'm like,
Yeah, because
I'll
you
I'll
might
support
change
you
your
if you
mind and
decide to
go,
do it
"Oh,
later
fuck,
on.
what did I do?" Yeah, um, and it's not that you might change your mind is the right thing to do. It's just that people are often undecided for a long time before they actually get enough life experience to figure themselves out. And it you know, um, surgery is permanent. Uh, Changing your mind, whether one way or the other, or never change your mind, or finally realizing you were right all along, that's a totally different thing. And you, no one should be stuck with the consequences of a decision made prematurely. Leave your options open for as long as you possibly can because as everyone evolves, their attitudes change, their interests change, everything about them changes. If you still feel the same way when you are well above the age of consent, then go for it. Don't do it too soon because you might change your mind and regret the choice that you made originally when you were too young. Um, And that's not a put down. That's not a, oh, you shouldn't, but it's common sense. Wait till you know your mind before you finalize anything.
And I don't mean to trivialize this.
Well, I don't think you have been.
Well, no, my next statement might. Um, if you've ever been at a buffet, a smorgasbord,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're looking at something going, hey, that's pretty cool. You get that on your plate, you get it back to your table, you take a bite of it, and you're like, the hell did I just do?
Yeah, really. That's not as good as it looked like on the.
Precisely. And again, I'm just trying to make an analogy. I'm not trying to trivialize or anything like that.
Mm,
But some of these decisions are like that.
yeah,
You
not
have
we're not.
individuals who make that transition early and they're happy the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
You've got some people who make that transition too early and they're miserable for the rest of their lives. I want to make
And
sure my child's not miserable.
yeah, got that is part and parcel with being a dad. You support your kids in all their decisions, no matter what, no matter what you think their decisions might be wrong or right. They are making the decisions. They are the ones that you have to trust to be experienced enough with all the different variables that life can throw, and that this is their irrevocable final decision. If you make that irrevocable final decision too young, and then you wind up in your 50s going, I really regret that. I'm not saying that is what's going to happen or what should happen or whatever. Um, I'm saying know your mind.
So,
Wait until you've had some worldly experiences before you make an irrevocable decision.
going back to my
It's
middle child for a second.
yeah.
So, it was funny. It's, um, I
Oh
love my
God,
daughter to. Mhm.
we got 2 minutes.
I love my daughter to death, and sometimes I'm willing to strangle her to prove it. But she was making a rash of really bad decisions, and I called her out on it. She was making all these things on Facebook and stuff like that, so I called her out on it on Facebook. And I don't remember if it was the guy she was dating at the time or um, one of her friends at the time or whatever. And my daughter was still in high school at this point in time. And well, you're supposed to make sure that no, my job is not to make my daughter happy. My job is to make sure my daughter is safe.
Exactly. Exactly.
They do happiness
On
when
their
they
own.
have the power and the money to be able to do it. I ensure safety until they have the power to make the money to make themselves
Exactly.
happy.
Exactly. That's being a dad right there.
My job
And
is to make sure they survive.
not to influence their decisions, but to give them time to make an informed decision.
Give them autonomy, but let them know that, hey, that's a dangerous path you're walking down. You
Yeah,
shouldn't
yeah.
go that way.
Don't jump too soon. Um, raising teenagers. I have done it so many times.
2.5 for me.
I oh God. I'm working on what 7. Um, Most of
I'm
the time,
hoping for it
most
to be 3 here shortly, because my youngest is almost 16. So they're about midway through their teen years. So that's why I'm like 2.5. You know, 2 have gotten through it. One's in the middle of it. Hopefully they make it through the end. Although I do have to say, um, this one is a lot more understanding and reasonable and responsible in certain regards.
yeah.
Although they are still lazy as hell as regards to cleaning the room and getting the garbage out. Crow, if you're watching this, yes, talking about you. Um, I doubt Crow will pop on and watch this, but hey, who knows?
Hey,
And if you do, love you, kiddo.
they
Thank you
might
for all the help
actually
you've given me this weekend.
they might actually one day watch it on reruns or whatever. Um, I and this is just me. This is not some kind of universal rule that I'm right and everybody else is wrong. No, no, no. I try to give my kids every advantage that I can afford, and I'm not rich, so I'm not
No,
wealthy.
you're
Let's
Dan.
say
I'm
that. So,
rich.
yes, I'm not wealthy, so
People are probably
that
so sick of that joke.
it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. But it's their lives. They have to make their own decisions. All I can do is go, um, here's a bit that helped me. If you want to read through it, that's fine. If you don't, well, it might be a little bit harder on you later on, but you know, I can't force you into any mold that I might think is desirable. I have to be here. I have to accept your choices. I have to advise as to the best of my ability whether this process is taking too long, somebody's trying to take advantage of you, this, that, and the other thing. Not you're wrong, you're not that. I don't have a right to say you're not that. I have the right to say, please don't jump the gun on anything permanent. Give it time until you've experienced the full range of the opportunities presented to you by this thing that you want. And if the full range of opportunities that were available to this thing you want is not sufficient for your needs, don't feel ashamed that you choose to change direction again.
Yeah.
Your happiness is all that matters. Your being comfortable with yourself is all that matters. My approval is trivial. My love and support is what I've got to give you. And that's all. That's all I've got to give you. My love, my approval of your being able to make your own decisions, even though I may disagree with those decisions, doesn't make me right. Doesn't make you wrong. It just means I'm here and I'm not going anywhere and I'm not going to stop caring. So make the best decisions on,
Please, God, let us stop the Karens.
yeah, really.
Oh, wait, sorry. No.
Um,
Kareen. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
just do the best you can with what you got and try not to be unhappy because, you know, um, life is difficult enough without
Life
all
is
the
way too short to
crap
be unhappy.
everybody else throws at you. Um, Basically, if somebody says you're wrong, say thank you and go ahead and do whatever it is you want and learn your lesson from that. Don't go, somebody in authority said I was wrong. No, do what it is you planned to do, plan intelligently, okay? But if you decide you made a mistake, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You can
Yeah,
always try something else.
our big thing was, everyone gets a vote. Because everyone in your life is going to cast their vote, whether you give it to them or not. Everyone gets a vote.
Oh yeah,
You get to count the votes. This vote matters. Oh, sorry, this vote was sent on the wrong date. You get to choose the votes of that stuff. But the thing is,
really, really.
if someone in authority is saying you might want to rethink that, at least pay attention, acknowledge, and go, are they right? And then go, okay, they are right, but the payoff is worth it. Or
Really.
sometimes they think the payoff is worth it, and it becomes a life lesson, and that's another thing too. So, but you know,
Yeah,
at
and
least listen to people. Don't just go, well, I don't want to do it, so I'm going to do it anyway. That's my middle child's problem.
mhm. But no, but
Thankfully, Crow doesn't have that issue.
never be afraid to make up your own mind about anything, but always do the research and explore the alternate possibilities before you go, yep, this is ironclad. Ir- Irrevocable decisions are irrevocable for a reason. Um, no one needs to be saddled with the unfortunate, ill-considered decision.
I am
You should
reminded.
always reserve the right to change your mind when you are confronted with better evidence. And that is what people tell you to do on the job, what you observe about the universe, what you feel inside, which is the most important thing, and what you see works and doesn't work for yourself. Observe, gather information, be flexible, evaluate the information that you have observed, make an informed choice. Don't do anything irrevocable until you know for a ironclad fact that this is what you want to do. I would have never married my first wife if I had followed that advice right now and go, oh, yes, ironclad, this is what I want to do. No, I do not want to be subject to um, 3 attempts to assassinate me every week for 5 years. Um,
I lucked out with Misty.
you certainly did. She's an excellent lady, and you are one lucky bugger to have her. And I'm
I woke up one day and I'm like, I don't want to live the rest of my life without her. So we decided to get married, and so far it'll be 19 years just after Christmas this year. Um,
you can drop the so far shit now after 19 years. I'm pretty safe to say so far it does no longer matter. Um,
um, it,
yeah,
not every day is roses, but it's the
in
best
every
lesson my
in every
grandmother.
relationship, not every day is roses. Um, you're lucky if you're dealing with the world together and you're not mad at each other because the world did some crap, and you can still go, oh, well, I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping me stay sane. And I wouldn't want to change my life in any other way than to have you by my side until I die. That's a very romantic thing to say, Daniel, um, especially about somebody else's wife. Um,
And the strange thing is, as you're saying it, the way you were turned in frame, you were looking at me from my view. I'm like, okay. No, my grandmother taught me two very important lessons in life. The second most important lesson is that you're not going to have good days without bad days. You have to have bad days to be able to have good days. Otherwise, it is just days.
hmm
The worse those bad days are, the sweeter the good days are, both in remembrance and when they come back. So, and there's a lot of people that think I'm a pessimist because my go-to line to, how are you doing is, I've been better, I've been worse, I can't complain too much, I'm on the right side of the green, anything else is getting greedy. To borrow Dave Ramsey's line, I'm better than I deserve. But people are like, well, that's such a pessimistic view. I'm like, no, it's not really. It's a lazy view
view.
because I don't have to try to beat my wedding day. I don't have to try to beat the birth of my child. I don't have to try to beat being the officiant for my son's wedding. I don't have to beat these really awesome days that I don't know if I know how to beat them, you know? And I don't have to contend with the death of my mother, the death of my father, some of those really bad, low moments.
Yeah.
Middle of the road's a good place to be. The good is good when it happens. Huzzah. The bad, okay, not so much. But I can steer back to the middle of the road here. But the best lesson my grandmother ever taught me. And I've taken this lesson to heart. And because of it, I am actually an addict to other people's smile and laughter now. At one point in time, I would do the Chevy Chase and Chris Farley and Three Stooges thing of purposely hurt myself to get other people to laugh. Probably would still do it again to this day because, again, I'm addicted to those laughs and stuff like that. But my grandmother told me the best thing you can give another person in this world is a smile or a laugh. Never the wrong color, never the wrong size, never the wrong style. And for one brief moment, you've made that person's life a little brighter.
It's never ill considered.
My grandmother was a very sarcastic little woman. Looking at her, she looked just so sweet and innocent. But, oh dear Lord, the wit on that woman.
She would have fit in with the green room so well. And you would be going, Granny's there, I can't show up.
Nope. No, Grandma was all fine with letting me have my freak flag flying. It's and not to try to bring this back around to religion or anything like that, but she is one of the people that taught me that there are people who have a lot of faith in Christianity who aren't asses.
Thank God. Yes.
Her thing is never hate anyone. Hate is against God's will. You might not be happy with someone right now, but and if they disagree with you on religion or whatever, love them. If they want to have that conversation with you, have that conversation, but don't press that conversation. you press that conversation, you're just going to push them away and they're going to run.
Exactly. Your grandmother was a very wise woman.
And then I realized, I'm like, who's to say that I'm right and they're not? They might have the righteous path, and I might be the one screwing up. So
Mm.
learn from each other. Be the
That's
best people we
that's
can.
that's where I have the advantage in believing that there's more than one path, even if there's only one destination. And I'm not sure that there's just one singular destination, but I'm damn sure there are a lot of different paths to get to the destination I know about.
Yeah.
So, as the poet said, any road up's all right. Um, and on that note, oh great, you just quoted music and say on that note, um,
But
we're going to call it a night. We're only 16 minutes over the 2 hour limit, so
we didn't go
Carl
that
is
far over, Carl.
Carl is not going to cuss us out, and well, he can if he wants to. It's not like we're
Although
going to
a
pay. It's
couple
not like we're going to pay any damn attention, but
couple minutes over, he's going to be like, "Dang it, they're going to go 5 hours, aren't they? They're going to go 5 hours, aren't they?" Although he should see the time limit and go like, "Okay, it's
he,
only
he
2 hours
he
and
can see
16
the time
minutes."
limit before he ever clicks on it. I mean, seriously, that's the advantage. Um,
We love you, Carl, and
the,
you can too for $99.95.
hey, does Donna charge that much for a renting amount?
That's a friends and family rate.
Oh, okay. Glad I'm not Polly.
I'm going to get my ass kicked at LibraryCon if I have enough to go.
Listen, I'm going to have to explain this to my mother one day. Shut up.
They're going to look at Brian. They're going to be like, "Toss him in the back of the van," and then they're going to be like, "All right, he's too big to toss. Nudge him into the back of the van."
Uh, duct tape and tarpaulins. No,
Don't
no.
threaten me
And
with a good time.
whips and chains and hand grenades. Ah. Ooh, I can't remember what piece of music that was a quote from. But it might have been Fireside Theater, but I kind of doubt it. It was something in that era. Um, I was not suggesting anything odd. Just perfectly normal for people like us.
In
Um,
junior high
and
school.
there are very few people like us, and the number of viewers on the channel really relates that there are very few people like us. Um, at the moment, there are zero. Um, it's because we stay up too late. They've got a bedtime. Okay, Sunday morning, Last Man Standing is at its conclusion. Thank you, Rich, for being here all the time for tonight, and thank you for showing up any night. And
It's a pleasure to
thank
be
you
here. Thanks for
for
having me.
bringing up all kinds of philosophical points that I had to stop and think about because I love somebody bringing up something that I have to stop and think about. I may not say anything of value after having thought, but sometimes I do. Rarely, when cows fly. Um, pigs on the wing. Um, let's just end the show now. Shut up, Daniel. Um,
Big pigs can fly if properly instructed.
trebuchets are a thing.
So are C-130s.
As God is my witness, I thought pigs could fly.
Except that's supposed to be turkeys, but yeah.
Modified for the subject at hand. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Les Nesbitt.
We love you and hope your life is going great. And thank you, Rich, for being here. It's been enormously fun. And go good, guys.
Transmission overload. System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.